All right, welcome back to this learning adventure. Sorry for the wait. I'm still doing the free code camp and a good deal of research on my own, as well as just putting out applications. So since last time, something that might assist you, I've found how to just more easily get all of these assets. Once we go to JavaScript30's GitHub profile, all you have to do is in your terminal, git clone, and you will need this link right here, and it will clone the repository and give you everything you need for the entire course. So, cracking right on in. This one is pretty simple with a few things that I found interesting along the way. Let's just run it in the live server to show you what's happening. This is the JavaScript clock. You can just see how it's updating itself bit by bit as the minute and second hands move. So we're just going to discuss how this actually works. Again, if you're not familiar with HTML or CSS, go over to Free Code Camp. It is a great resource for those things, if nothing else, and it'll help you better understand just what all is going on here. The things that Wes pointed out here that are kind of neat. First off, all these hands being centered and moving along this focal point rather than their central focal point, that comes from transforming the origin here on your hand element. Because normally, by default, it's all set to 50, and then you get that. So when you set it to 100, that takes this furthest right section of it. Also here, he's transformed, rotated everything because by default they were all sticking out this way, and he failed to explain something in his video that I'll sort out for you here. So looking at the actual script itself, it's very simple. It's just using, we're calling on the elements using an id in the query selector to give us the second hand, minute hand, and hour hand. Then we're creating a set date function and declaring a variable using the date function. And just to show you what that is, over here I've got code.io pulled up, and we'll just create a quick little function that kind of shows what's going on here. All right, and right here, you're just saying this is just a for loop to show it updating every second. The date function just calls whatever the time is or whatever the date is in this format. And we'll just break that so it doesn't keep on going. So over here, taking a look at this, we set our variable, which is just calling the date function. So that way. And then we create a constant, which is seconds. Now, that function, and get seconds, which just calls the seconds of that. Then we declare seconds degrees, which takes seconds and divides it by 60 so that we can get a percentage of that, and then multiplies it by 360 degrees to give the corresponding point in a clock. And then right here, this plus 90, just because up here we have that 90-degree offset, so it's not actually starting where it thinks it is. And then our second-hand style transform is just calling our second-hand degree as the value of the rotation. Then we repeat that process over here and declaring the min from now get minutes, creating minutes degrees. The same method here, get your percentage times 360, but also adding this right here, which he didn't talk about in his video, which, as you see, that's just that very minor amount of movement every second that the second hand gives. So that it's not jumping full minute and just adding that minor movement. Same here with hours. Get hours by 12 instead of 60 because 12 hours on the clock face. Same process with the adding the mins to add the slow movement. All of these offset by 90 degrees, all calling their variable style, transform, rotate, and then using this declared variable as the value of the degrees, and then setting the entire function to an interval, which is 1000 milliseconds. So it runs every second. And then at the end of the function, it calls, or at the end of the script, it calls the function set date. So this runs through this, gets paused for a second, and then continues again. All that's the function. It's pretty simple in how it's implemented. This is the interesting thing about it. So as you notice, the click, click, click that we're accustomed to with analog clocks, that actually comes from calling this particular transform of a cubic Bezier, which I'd never heard of before. As you modify this, you're just accentuating that stutter step right there. And also here in about 30 seconds, we'll show you something else as it reaches that point. Let's go ahead and close this. So if you want to see kind of the visualization of a cubic Bezier, I found this website that lets you play around with it and just kind of see how what it's actually functioning. And right here, you're going to see it. That weird jump, that's just because when it's doing this process, it doesn't cycle over. Once it reaches that 359, 360, rather than just going to 0 and then to 1, it whips back around to 1. I don't know how to fix that. There's definitely a way to fix that, and we may look into how I fix that once I figure it out. But for now, a bit of resources for today. If you're curious of a cubic Bezier, here's where you can go and check it out, and I'll include that link down in the description so you can play around with it. If you want something that'll just allow you to run some JavaScript in the console and test it out at your own pace, you can go over to playcode.io. The other thing that we're going to bring up for today, now that this is done, what I've been working on is learning React libraries. And since I completed this, I just went ahead and decided to make my own version of it in React and add a little bit of extra stuff. So here it's my clock. And I just added these buttons to show a little bit of how React works, and because I thought it was neat. So if you go over to Free Code Camp, eventually it's going to teach you some React stuff. It did not teach me how to use Vite, but if you're struggling with that process, especially since it's a little awkward on how it tries to get you to set up everything in the code pen, I recommend looking into Vite, and I'll make a video later showing how to do that. And I might even make a few tutorials on some of their projects, because I ran into some issues, especially with the 25.5 clock, which seemed to constantly break their little test plugin. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And as always, let's have fun learning together. Like, comment, subscribe, and go learn.